In this video, we're going to add some personalization to our app. Variables and conditions are really good for adding personalization features. In section 6, we started building the favoriting a photo feature. In this video, we're going to continue with that feature by building the ability to show the photo in the favorites section. ProtoPie doesn't have the ability to actually move objects from place to place between scenes, for example. Nor does it have any ability to import real data, so we'll have to add some fakery to make this work. But that's okay, it's only a prototype after all. Okay, so if you're following along, carry on with your file, otherwise you can download a starter file for this video. And we're going to kick off by going to the home section, the home screen, and we're going to copy image 9 inside of our photos group. So photo stream group, if that's not open, then so open the photo stream group and then page 1, and we're going to grab this image 9 here, and we're just going to copy this. And we're going to go back to our favorites section. And we're going to paste, and we're going to rename it High 1. And we're going to position it at coordinates 16 for X and 96 for Y. So it's in the top left hand corner. And we're going to group the image so we can put it into a container. And we're going to call this container favorite pies. Okay, so we're going to reduce the opacity of the container to 0. And we're also going to reduce the pi 1 image to 0. Next up, we're going to create a numeric variable for all scenes. So by default, you'll get a numeric variable there. I'm going to call this pi 1. And we'll leave the default value as 0. Okay, so we're going to create a new start trigger. And we're going to call it content manager. So it's another manager we're going to be creating. And set it to restart every time. And to it, we're going to add a condition. And we're going to call this pi 1. So in the condition, we're going to choose our pi 1 variable, and we're going to look for a value of 1. Okay, so let's go back to our pi 1 image, and we're going to select that, and we're going to add an opacity response inside of our condition. We're going to set it to 100, and we're going to reduce the duration to 0. We're going to come back to our states manager, which we set up in the last video, and we're going to add a new state, so a new condition, and we're going to call this favorites. And we're going to set F state, and we're going to look for the value favorites, all in caps. As you saw previously in the previous video, I'm using all caps for my state names. And if this is true, if we get an equal to favorites, we want to add an opacity, and we want to select our empty state, and we want to set the opacity to 0. And we want to set its duration to 0. We want to then select our favorite pies group. We want to add another opacity. And we want to set it to 100. And again, we want a duration to be 0. Okay, so we've done two things here. We've set up a content manager, which is basically going to manage the showing and hiding of our favorited pie images here. We've added another state to our states manager, which is effectively going to show our favorite pie if our F state equals favorites. And we're also going to hide the empty state, as obviously we'll be changing state from empty to showing something. Okay, so next up we need to set up the image that's going to be favorited. So we're going to go back to the home scene. We're going to find our double tap trigger. And let's open that up. And we're going to add a new response. And this is going to be an assign response. An assign response allows us to assign values to variables. And we're going to select our F state variable. So you can see, because this is a variable that can be seen by all scenes, you have access to it in all scenes. And the reason I called it F underscore state is F obviously for favorites. So because you're going to see it across all of your scenes, you just need to make sure it's got a unique name. So we're going to choose that as our variable. And we're going to change the value to favorites, making sure it's in all caps. Right, so what's gone wrong here? We can see that the formula is still in orange, and orange, as we know, means that there's something wrong. Okay, so because we're passing a text value, when we add a text value inside of a formula, we need to wrap it into double quotes. Otherwise, it won't work. So just wrap the word in double quotes, and now you can see that the orange has gone away. Okay, we're going to add another assign response. And this time we're going to choose our pi1 variable. And we're going to set the formula to 1. Okay, let's test that out. So we're on our home screen. We're going to find our pi1, and we're going to our pi to be favorited, which I believe is this one. We're going to double click it. We got that animation that we did before. And if we now go to our favorite section, we can see that our pie has appeared. Okay, that's cool. We've now added some cool personalization to our app. Now, this setup may seem overly complex, but we are future-proofing it for when we might want to add multiple favorites. The way it's set up gives us control over both individual images and the favorites view as a whole, which will make things a lot easier in the long run. One of the things with ProtoPie, especially when you start creating lots of functionality, is that things can get a little unwieldy pretty quickly. This is why a good structure and good naming is vitally important. Okay, so this wraps up section 7. I hope this has given you a good foundational understanding of variables and conditions and how they can be used. I've challenged you with some pretty advanced concepts here, so if it all makes sense, then you're well on your way to creating some amazing things. If it's been a bit hard going, keep at it. Play with the features and try out other ways of doing things. There's certainly different ways of creating the same functionality. In the next section, we're going to explore some of ProtoPie's hardware features. You don't want to miss this one, so see you there.